Her Story, Our Story, 1 hour of power. It's an online free private group for women. There's a huge disconnect between what we go after and what we really want. Let's move forward. Join Her Story, Our Story, 1 hour of power. Do you sometimes feel unfulfilled and confused about your purpose? You don't have to go it alone. Come on over to the No Judgment Zone where you're going to connect with other like minded women from all over the world and receive support from others who have been through similar situations. Everyone has a story. What's your story? Seeking guest speakers. Do you have a story, talent, or ability that you would love to share? We invite you to be our guest. Hello and welcome to Her Story, Our Story. My name is Stephanie Wall. They call me Speaker Stephanie. I am the CEO and founder of Speaker Stephanie LLC and the founder of Her Story, Our Story, 1 hour of power, and the founder of 1 Million Lives Transformed, where we transform lives, relationships, and finances. The goal is for every woman, every person to transform their lives. I particularly super serve those women who've experienced trauma in their lives. Welcome to Her Story, Our Story. Remember, you belong here. You belong there. You belong everywhere. Be sure to shine your light. My name is Stephanie Wall, and I'm certainly getting it all. Come on in.
Hello everyone and welcome to Her Story, Our Story. My name is Hope Jackson, founder of Always Hope, and my purpose and goal is to help women to unlock what is hidden inside them. I know from experience that sometimes in life when you're going through dark times, you don't realize the purpose that you have inside of you. So my goal is to help you to find it and just to remind you that no matter what you go through in life, there is always hope.
Welcome to Her Story, Our Story, 1 hour of power. This is Stephanie Wall, your transformation architect, and my co-host, Superbad Hope Jackson. Hope, are we ready? Are we ready tonight for Tiran?
We are ready. We like when the men come on because it's really gonna be fire.
Listen, I was looking at my analytics the other day, looking at the analytics of the show, and the last gentleman was on here, I think it was Trevor Otts, and the analytics been off the charts. So I know that Tyran is going to bring the heat. Matter of fact, Trevor might be watching tonight saying that I know she didn't just throw that out there. Now the competition is on. I already know. But let me give y'all, I'm going to bring the man himself up, and then you all can meet him for yourself as we introduce him. Tiran, as they say down on The Price is Right, come on down.
Here I am. Hey, it's a pleasure to be here, Stephanie. It's a pleasure to be here, Hope. And yes, for the ladies out there, as a fella, we're gonna make this happen tonight. So I hope you guys are entertained, enjoy, listen, learn, and hopefully be captivated by just hearing us have this conversation tonight.
I'm so glad you came because we have it says Her Story, Our Story. We all have a story. It's just 1 hour of power. The power comes from everywhere. We need everybody's voice in the room because at the end of the day, we need to know how we can best support each other. And your story is transformative and it can help all of us. So let me read a little bit of it before he come and give y'all the 411. Oh, no.
I'm sorry, Stephanie. Can we pause for a second so we can open in prayer, decency, and order?
Praise him. Oh my Lord. Yes, thank you. I see. I got so excited. I forgot the protocol. Come on, Hope. Give it to us.
Heavenly Father, we come to you and we just say thank you, Lord. We thank you for this day, Lord Father God, and allowing us to come together on Her Story, Our Story, Father God. We thank you for Tiran and his yes. And Lord Father God, we just allow what he is about to share will just help to shift and transform somebody's life. Because as we know, that is the purpose. You said by the transforming and the renewing of our minds, Lord Father God, just help someone to hear something tonight. Lord Father God, we thank you for all of these things in your name and your blessings. Amen.
Amen.
So actually, you know what? No, because I said I didn't want to take away from the story. So this is what we're going to do. We're going to go right into this interview because I want Tiran to tell Tiran's story. Because sometimes, we tell it, we read the bio and we didn't took some of the story that he was going to share. Because, and I showed, and Tiran, prior to today, I showed a little bit of your video.
Yeah.
So that gives people some information. But those of you that haven't seen it yet, you can still go back and look at it. But I want you to listen to the man and then go back and watch the video. So at this point, this is where I'm going to, I think Hope is going to do a little opening with you. I'm going to pop off so she can do her interview portion with you and I'm going to come back. All right, Hope, it's all you.
Hello again, Tiran, and thank you again for joining us on Her Story, Our Story. So I'm really just going to kind of open up with an icebreaker. So if, I'm trying to think what's a good one to ask you. If money was not an issue, what would you do and why?
Money was not an issue, what would I do and why? That's an interesting question because I would have answered it differently a couple of years ago. But now, as into what I'm doing and where I'm at now, I realize I'm doing something that I truly enjoy and love. I like helping people get through challenges that are facing them, challenges beyond their own control. So being able to actually see people change and to help people change for the better is something that I'm finding more and more pleasure in, and realizing that, there's so many of us who feel like we're going through challenges and things that might set us back and keep us from being able to reach where we want to reach in life. But as far as being able to find pleasure in doing something, being able to help those people reach those destinations and get out of a place of being stuck is something that I truly enjoy. And if money wasn't an issue, I would still be looking to do that today, tomorrow, and every day moving forward. That, to me, that goes into what our purpose is. And when you truly find your purpose, it doesn't feel like money and work is as big of a priority. So
I agree, and thank you so much for sharing that. And my one last question is, what was your favorite childhood activity or game?
Ooh, my favorite childhood activity. I was an athlete growing up, and I used to love playing sports. I was a football player, a basketball player. So anything that got me, I played baseball, I ran track, anything where I was able to be competitive athletically was great. Football was my first love. I enjoyed basketball. So that was probably my favorite thing to do. I used to love getting ready for the season and playing and being able to compete with others. So that was what I love to do. Yeah.
All righty then. Well, Stephanie, come on up so we can get into the meat and potatoes of tonight.
I was getting ready to start talking with this mic off. All right. Thank you, Hope. Well, listen, this is where, so Tiran, I don't know if you have your 6-word story or even your 5 words. And do you have something around you, the thing that means a lot to you? We ask each one of our hosts to come on, each one of our guests to come on and share something, that an item, or maybe it's a picture or something that means a lot to you. I was on a show once and someone asked me that question, and I shared a picture of a recliner. It's a cloth covered recliner that's downstairs in my basement. I show a picture, and it means a lot to me because my mother is deceased. And that chair, she loved that chair. We bought that chair for her. And that's the only thing that I have of hers.
Yeah.
And so when I sit in it, I feel like I can almost hear her say, baby, it doesn't even matter. You're going to be okay. And I feel like my husband must feel the same way because he likes the chair. It's like, can you get about my chair? He got to be in it too. So I would like to know from you, what is your 6-word story? Hope I'm going to push you back.
So my 6-word story, maybe it's 7, depending on how we count it. From tragedy and trauma to resilient transformation.
Now, you got to tell us, what does that mean?
But look, I'm gonna go into what that means as I talk through this tonight. So I don't want to give too much of it.
That's all right. No, hold that, because I cannot wait. I'm gonna get into that. Okay, so then I want you to show. Do you have an item that's near you, or picture of something that you can share with us? I want you to share what that item is, and why it means a lot to you.
So I'm going to tell you why it means a lot to me later, but I'm going to do this. Something that, is a part of me. This is more than just something that I can pick up from time to time. But if you see this, this is my leg. And it means a lot to me because without it, I can't get around. And it symbolizes a number of things, where I once was in my lowest state and what my future looks like. Everything that I do going forward, this is a part of me. And so it's not just some physical object that just sits somewhere. Every aspect of me being able to literally move forward with life is something that it goes with me, and it's with me everywhere I go. And if it wasn't for that, I wouldn't be able to live the functional type of life that I am able to live now. So that is the one thing that is.
You see, you're just gonna come on here out the gate and just snatch us right by our throat with that one.
It's important. It's without it, yeah.
So I'm gonna, and I'm always gonna I love this quote, and I always make my own version of it. But you're gonna correct me and make sure I say it properly. So they say powerful people ask powerful questions. Why?
Why? Because powerful people, because got me on the spot, Stephanie.
I know, but you know what? I keep saying because it leads to clarity, and that's what we know.
Yep.
It leads to clarity. So I want to ask you this. So tell me your 6 words again, and then I want you to tell me what those words mean, and what, we all have a story. I have a story, and you have a story. What is your story? And I want you to tie it into what your 6 words are.
Okay. So I'm going to repeat this again. My 6 words: from tragedy and trauma to resilient transformation. That is my 6-word story. Now, let me tell you my story. Let me share my story with you all. Let me take you guys back. Let's go back to 2018, just 4 years ago. At that point in time, I had my former wife and I, we were celebrating our 15th wedding anniversary. As we were getting closer and closer to that wedding anniversary, we had been going through a lot of things. She was very busy. She was a HR executive for a Fortune 500 company. She had been working a lot, been traveling a lot, been doing a lot of different things. And right before our anniversary, she had got promoted from a high-level manager to a national director. So, she was all excited, looking forward to it. She'd been working hard to get to that point. And this vacation that we were going on to celebrate a huge accomplishment, to reach 15 years to be married in this day and age, and actually really genuinely love each other, like each other, and love each other, was a big accomplishment. For me, I spent my life working to be an engineer. When I was in middle school, high school, I was really powerful, really good in math and science. I knew pretty early. I started going to different STEM programs at different colleges, and I knew that being an engineer was what I was good at and what I wanted to do. Went to college to Tennessee State, got my mechanical engineering degree, started off my career working at Rolls-Royce. Imagine that, being an engineer at Rolls-Royce. That was a cool way to start off a career. Got into moving up pretty quickly, advanced in my career. I was a manager at 26, which is not common in a large corporation such as that. I kept progressing and moving forward, and even moved into different companies where I was, serving as engineering manager, and I was working my way towards a director role with the company that I was with. But I was doing a lot as far as traveling internationally, working with customers and clients, working domestically with different vendors and suppliers to make sure that the business that I was working for was actually doing great and doing well. In the midst of all of this, me and my former wife, Malika, we would end up having to sort of plan our schedules around each other. We had one son. His name is Cameron. And there'd be weeks where we're based out of Atlanta, where I would end up needing to stay at home and work and be with him and everything, while she had to go to Chicago or she had to go to LA or do something with her job. And then, when she come back, I'd have my trip scheduled. So I would be gone all over the place to do what I needed to do. So we had very busy, a lot going on at that point in time in our lives, but we were really focused on our careers, and we still wanted to have our relationship strong, great, powerful. And so anyway, as we were getting to this point, we were really, really significantly looking forward to celebrating our 15th anniversary. And in doing so, we thought, okay, there are a lot of places that we can go, but we wanted to really disconnect from that busy, trying, difficult time, not difficult time, but just overwhelming, where there was so much to do. If it wasn't for work, there were things with the family that we were doing. There were things with our extended family. We were both part of organizations. I'm a Kappa. She was an AK. We were all involved in our organizations that we were a part of, as well as other community service and church requirements and commitments. With that being said, as we started getting closer and closer to our anniversary, we started getting excited. We started looking forward to being able to, turn the switch off, because both of us had a problem with that. We would go constantly and then have a hard time actually just enjoying and relaxing and having a good time. So we got closer to that time of that trip. And the day before the trip, I actually took our son to go stay with his uncle, telling him, son, don't worry. We do this from time to time. Drop him off. Don't worry. We'll be back in a week. Mom and dad are going to go have a good time, and we'll be back here to pick you up, and all was going to be good. So it was a good thing because, he got to spend some time with his cousins, with his family, some dedicated time without, us being around or interruptions or coming and going. So, that was great. That was good. So I get back, and Malika and we fly out on a Thursday afternoon, go to the Bahamas. That's where we chose to go for our anniversary. Get there the first 2 days, just phenomenal. We get to go to the beach, spend some time on the beach, have some good fruity drinks. Drinks are delicious and everything. Get to go do a little concert, a little show. Everything was wonderful. We had us a great time. Now, one of the things that we talked about doing while we were on this vacation was we were going to actually get off of the resort that we were on, and we were going to go and take a trip. We were going to go on this small excursion where we would get on a boat and actually tour the island. So we would get to see more events, more things along these lines. This particular resort that we were at, or this island that we were at, they were known for having these wild pigs, and people go swimming with the pigs, and that there was this beautiful scenery. There's iguanas. There's all of these different activities that they promoted with going on this tour that we were planning to go on. So we thought, okay, this was just going to be another great adventure during this phenomenal time for us to be able to enjoy, reconnect, and celebrate being married for 15 years. So all is good. All is good. We get to that third day. We're excited. We wake up at 6:30 in the morning, get up, go to breakfast on the resort. All excited, have a good breakfast. Get out of the breakfast restaurant at about 7:15, 7:30. We go to the point where we're having to stop and wait for the bus to pick us up and take us to the marina. There were about 16 to 20 couples that were getting on this bus. We were the first ones there. I'm telling you, we were all excited about where we were going and what we were doing. 8 o'clock, we're standing there waiting for the bus to pick us up. 8:10, the bus picks us up. They take us to the marina. 8:45, we're in this line checking in, getting ready to start this day. We get everything checked in. We get ready. We get on our boat. 8:55, 9 o'clock. 9 o'clock, the boat takes off. We're excited. We're looking forward to this. Now, there are 2 boats, one going for a full day tour, one going for a half day tour. We got on the one for the half day tour. No problem. It was us. There were about 8 other passengers on there. We think this is going to be good. They got the captain is already talking about some of the great things. 9 o'clock, we take off from the dock and we start our way on this adventure, on this time. What's going to just be another great moment in a great vacation to celebrate a great milestone. 9:05. 9:05. My life changed forever. 5 minutes into this trip, something happened. I didn't detect it, didn't notice anything. I found myself waking up face down on the surface of this burning boat. Just a minute ago, I had my arm around my wife, and we were just enjoying how perfect the day was. And here I am waking up from being unconscious. What wakes me up? My right leg is literally on fire. If it wasn't for that, I probably would have stayed unconscious. I was thrown from where I was sitting, and I literally found myself 2 inches away from a steel pipe that if I would have been blown directly into it, I would have been gone right then and there. As I'm starting to come to, I'm laying on my stomach, and I can see blood coming out of my leg. Now, even though I couldn't get myself up, I look down and I see my left ankle bone. Imagine that. You see your left foot just dangling, just hanging there, and blood coming out. Your bone just protruded out. I don't know what happened. I literally tried to push myself up off the surface of the boat, but I crumble. I fall back down. Try to push myself up again, but I come back down. And I realized that I didn't know it at the time, but my collarbone was broken in 4 places. So here I am. Nobody else is on this boat. My right leg is on fire. My left leg is bleeding profusely. The only thing that I can do is reach my right arm out and stick my fingertips into the ridges of the boat and try to drag myself away from the flames. Now, as I start pulling myself away, I can hear people from that second boat that took off. They weren't too far away from us, probably about 100 yards away from us. And they're yelling to me, get off the boat, get off the boat, get off the boat. I yell back, I'm trying to get off the boat. And I'm pulling myself. And as I'm pulling myself away from the flames, I pass out again. The next time I come to, thankfully, some of the people from that boat were able to come over and drag me off the edge of the boat before it actually exploded again. And as I'm on that second boat, I'm asking some of the people who were on that bus with us coming over, where's Malika? Where's my wife? They tell me that she was thrown into the water, that she was picked up by another boat, and that she was on her way to a clinic. And as I get back to shore, because the boat turned around and went back to shore, here I am with a couple of people who are trying to keep me calm and keep me consoled and tell me that you're going to be okay. Your wife is going to be okay. But here I am. I see my leg dangling. My foot is literally hanging off. After waiting for a period of time, a guy in a pickup truck, that's what they had, a pickup truck and a piece of plywood on the back. They put me on the back of that pickup truck and they take me to this clinic for treatment. And while I'm on that ride, there's one other gentleman with me, and he's talking to me and trying to keep me calm. He and his wife were having conversations with me and Malika as we were on our way to the marina to start this trip. And he was telling me, man, she's going to be okay. You're going to be okay. Everything is going to be all right. Right then and there, I told him, I didn't know what was going on, but I told him, look, his name was Chris. I said, Chris, look, I don't know what's going on, but I gave him my room number at the resort, what our safe code was in order to get into the safe, in order to get to the passports, all the information to my mom, her number, my sister's number, these details that I'm just thinking off the top of my head, just because I don't know what's going to happen. And he's just telling me, just stay calm, just try to go ahead and you're going to be okay. Malika's going to be all right. Finally, after going through this ride, I get put on a stretcher and rolled into this clinic. As I'm getting rolled into the clinic, I can hear Malika, her moans, her yells, her screams. She is throbbing in pain. And that hurts me to the core. I don't know how to feel knowing that even though I'm hurt, I'm messed up, all I can do is hear my wife in pain, in agony. They rolled me into a bay. There were 3 of us who were horribly injured. The other passengers had minor injuries. They weren't even treating them. There was one doctor in this clinic, and he was trying to go between the rest of us and treat us. And when he finally got to me, before he said anything to me, I asked him, how is my wife? How is Malika? And he didn't say anything. He said, look, your injuries are worse than what we can deal with right here. So what we're doing is we're going to put you and this other passenger on a air ambulance and fly you to the good hospital so they can actually treat you. And so here I am. I'm laying in this bed. I'm finding myself being as quiet and still as I can. I'm praying to God. I'm praying that she's okay. I'm not thinking about myself. I'm thinking about her. And as I'm doing that, I can hear her moans, and I can't do anything about it. However, I'm thinking to myself, since I'm going to this good hospital, since this other young lady is going to this good hospital, our injuries must be worse than hers. So she must be doing better than we are. That's a good sign to me. I asked the doctor, well, what about Malika? Is she coming later? And he said, yeah, she'll be coming later. So I'm thinking to myself, okay, that's good. I've got the worst of it. I can deal with that. She must be doing better. She must be okay. So the next thing I know, they're prepping me to put me on this air ambulance to fly to the good hospital So 3 hours passed. I'm on this plane. All they've done is tape up my foot and said, okay, well, let them go ahead and treat you. So I get to this good hospital. The first thing they do is they put me through a CAT scan. And they get me ready for emergency surgery. And the first thing I ask them is, where's Malika? Is she coming? I'm trying to understand the logistics of all of this. You know, they said that she was coming later. I didn't know if there was a second plane that was going to bring her to this good hospital. I didn't know if they were going to use the same plane that brought me there to go back and get her and bring her there. And all they did was tell me, look, you're about to go into surgery and we got to see what all is wrong with you. So they put me through this CAT scan. I didn't realize what was wrong with me at first, but at that point in time, they said I had a broken right foot. I had third-degree burns on my right leg. I had a fractured pelvis, a fractured vertebrae, broken collarbone, bruised ribs. And in the midst of that whole trip and journey, I got knocked unconscious 5 times. I came in and out of consciousness that many times. Next thing I know, I'm waking up from surgery 3 hours later. And I found myself in ICU in a critical condition. And the doctors come in. And there's 2 doctors. They come in. And the first thing I ask them is, where's Malika? Has Malika gotten here yet? Where is she and how is she doing? The doctors look at me perplexed. And they walk back outside the room. And they have a little conversation. I'm thinking to myself, well, hell, this isn't too difficult of a conversation to have. I mean, it's a simple question. Is she here yet? Where is she? The doctors come back in and they tell me, Mr. Jackson, your wife didn't make it. And here I am. I'm trying to be as optimistic as I can be. She didn't make it. That means there must be a problem with the airplane. There must have been a problem with getting her from the island that we were on to where this hospital was, something of that nature, in order to allow her not to have arrived yet, but that she was on her way. And they said, no, Mr. Jackson, your wife passed away. So here I am, broken, not just physically, but emotionally. I'm heartbroken now. Me and my wife are celebrating our 15th anniversary. It wasn't supposed to go like this. It wasn't supposed to happen like this. I laid in that bed and I cried myself to sleep and I prayed and I was thinking, God, why did this have to happen to us? This wasn't meant to be. As I wake up that next morning, I'm trying to process what's happened. I have to call our son and tell him, son, Cameron, your mom's not coming back home. That was one of the hardest things I ever had to do. To hear him on the other end of that phone and be like, no, Dad, that can't be true. He didn't know about what happened yet. And it was so painful, so hard for me to have to break that news to him. He was only 12 years old at the time. Later that afternoon, as I was laying in that hospital bed, and I was already in pain. I didn't know what was going on. I know that I went through a surgery. Well, what had happened was during the surgery, what they tried to do was take my left foot and try to reattach it to my ankle. And little did I know it, but my foot was infected. And infection was starting to spread through my leg. And it was spreading through the rest of my body. And what it was doing was causing all my vitals to get worse and worse and worse. I found myself laying in that hospital bed, heart beating at 160 beats per minute, just laying there. My blood pressure had spiked up. It was 195 over 130. I was there. I saw my temperature, my fever. It had went to 104 degrees. And I'm up here and my oxygen level was dropping. And I saw everything on this EKG monitor go from green to yellow to red. And I laid there and I was praying to God. And I said, okay, God, you already took my wife. I'm already in this broken state. And now it looks like you're going to take me as well. And I prayed to be able to, hopefully be seen where he would bless me and I would go to heaven. I would get to spend the time with her because I thought that's where my truth, my destiny was going. I found myself going to sleep thinking that was really going to be the last time I was going to close my eyes forever. The next day, I happened to wake up And in the midst of going through all of this, there were a lot of things that were happening in the background. There was a hospital in Fort Lauderdale, Florida. They had seen what happened. This was international news. They wanted to accept me. They wanted to allow me to come there so they could actually do everything they could to save my life. However, there were problems and challenges with me getting out of there. And that's a whole nother story. But the short of it is, on that next day, on that Monday, 2 days after the accident, I was flown to a hospital in Florida where as soon as I got there, they did an assessment, said, we got to do emergency surgery in order to save his life. By this point in time, my sister and my mother, who were in Nashville, Tennessee, had actually flown to the Bahamas to help ensure that everything was happening for me to be able to still survive and get out of there. And they were with me as I was going to Fort Lauderdale and going through this. So they were talking to the doctors to make decisions and give insight as to what was going on and what decisions needed to be made. They told my family, we're going to do whatever we can to make sure that we save his life. And in the midst of that, I woke up and my left leg was gone. 2 days later, and it was actually the 4th of July, while everybody else was shooting fireworks and eating barbecue and having a good time, I'm on a surgery table having 4 surgeries done in that one day just to try to get me stable again. And on that next day, July the 5th, 2018, I started to be able to process everything. Now, throughout all this time, I was praying to God as to what was going on and what happened. And I know that everything falls within your plan and it happens for a reason, but I was really struggling, having a hard time there. I've been broken spiritually, mentally, emotionally, physically. I didn't know what my future was going to look like. I didn't even know if I was going to survive this. But on that day, I was told that I was saved for a reason. That there were 3 times that my life could have been taken. I could have been taken when the boat exploded. I could have been taken when I was in the hospital in the Bahamas and I saw my vitals go to red. I could have been taken after going through those 4 surgeries in that one day and my body was unstable. But I was still alive and I was here. And that maybe I didn't realize it at that moment, what my point was, what my purpose was, but I'm going to be here for a reason, and I'm going to be here in order to use my story to make things better for more people. That I was going to be here in order to be resilient and not just survive, but to thrive. And at that point, it clicked, and it registered to me that, Lord, you would have taken me before now if that was the case. And I'm here, and I'm going to do everything in my power to get myself back to the place where you want me to be, back on my feet physically, be able to be back stronger so I can be there for our son. Because I know he didn't want both of his parents taken away. I was going to have to recover from this. I was going to have to bounce back. And I didn't know how hard it was going to be. I didn't know what it was going to take. But that was the moment. That was the life-changing moment where I chose to be resilient.
Let me tell you something. I'm sitting over here, and thank you, Tiran. I'm sitting over here with every. If I had some pearls on, I'd be clutching it. And even though I watched some of the video, I wasn't prepared as a wife. And and just when you were saying, that you actually love with somebody that you love, but you like, and even you telling the story, even the example when you were talking about how you got on the boat, in the line, and just I was like, why I could have been in the line? I could just see me just as big. Like, let's go Bahamas. We're gonna get this. And what has struck me is when you said, I told my son, we'll see you when you get back. So I want to ask you this, because there's a lot of parents, a lot of people deal with a lot of things. How did you get to a place, and how did you deal with, now I'm gotta raise my son?
Yeah.
How did you deal with that? Tell the folks like what I mean, and give us your truth, because I know every day wasn't easy, but how did you deal with that?
So let me move forward just a little bit. I was broken to my core, to a point that there's very few people who might have been taken to that level, to that point. I knew that it was going to take some time for me to be able to get to a point physically where I'd be able to function, to be able to do the things as a parent that I needed to do. And that, even emotionally, I'm having to not only deal with my hurt. I lost my wife, my lover, the mother of my child, the person who I was building an empire with. That's what I lost. But my son lost his mom, the woman who nurtured him, the woman who had been there to raise him to be who he was at that point in time. So his loss was going to be different. And even though we both had emotional pain, that connection was different. And here I am trying to figure out, okay, how am I going to be best suited to be able to help help him grow up and be strong while I'm still weak. And in the midst of having to go through a period of time where I was truly helpless, as I was starting to recover, I had to go 6 weeks where I pretty much was limited to being in a bed, being put into a wheelchair, rolled into the wheelchair into a living room, sitting on a couch for about 12 hours just to go back to that bed. Very little activity, very little movement. I had a lot of time to think in the process and to try to figure things out. And what I couldn't figure out, I knew I needed some help. So the first thing that I did when I actually got back to Atlanta after going through that period of being treated and recovered at my sister's house was say, okay, we need to get some counseling. We need some grief therapy and counseling, not just me, but him as well. And I needed to get something to be able to get my emotions back together and to be able to start the process of establishing what our new normal was going to be like, what it was going to be like for me and Cam, knowing that now I'm going to have to be, the father that I was and figure out how to be, replace some of what Malika did as a mother and try to figure out how we were going to move forward. I had to know to be strong, not only for myself, but for him, and to be able to be vulnerable and to be able to start talking about some of these things, because this was something, it wasn't planned. It wasn't seen ahead. It was something that happened suddenly, something that happened tragically. And we were both changed from that. But I knew that I couldn't do it all by myself. So I not only brought in the grief counselor and the therapist, but also people who were close to us who could provide love in ways that I alone couldn't do. And that was the start of the process of being able to help my son get back. We all know the saying that it takes a village to raise a child. Well, at this point, I needed my village. I needed my tribe of transformation to help me get through not only what I needed to get through, but him as well. So it took more than just that. And I'm so grateful and thankful for the friends and the family and the people and the resources who came to our aid when it was needed. Because as I said, I was in a state where I was lost, I was hopeless, and I didn't know how to do things for myself, let alone for my son.
You, Tiran, I believe that and I'm pretty confident that you are a man of faith.
Yes.
And the man of faith, I want, folks, they see our now. I need you to tell us, and so they already know about a time when you had to overcome. I always tell my guests, tell me it's about a time you failed at something. When you already told us about a time you have overcome something. But I want you to talk about during your process of overcoming, did you have to reset and overcome again and again and again?
Look, that's been the story of my past couple of years, Stephanie. Everything that I knew before, the person who I was before was gone. And I had to reinvent myself. I had to start to learn who I was again. I was going to have to learn how to deal with challenges. I didn't have that helpmate that was with me to deal with things anymore. I didn't have the capacity to be able to do so many things by myself that I was able to. I couldn't even get up out the bed and walk to the bathroom. And so it's like, okay, I know that, there's so much that I was going to have to go through and face and overcome. But in my conversations with God and in my faith, I knew that he was going to bring me through if he got me to that point. One of my favorite Bible scriptures, and we all have our reasons for things. I could have put this out too as the thing that is near and dear to me. I have a tattoo on my arm that I had that it was intended for me to get. It is Jeremiah 29:11. For I know the plans I have for you, plans to prosper you, not to harm you, plans to give you hope and a future. And this is what God told me, that despite what happened, I still have a plan for you. And that plan is going to require you to follow certain actions and certain steps in order to be able to get to that future. But, in the midst of it, when you're in that state, it's hard to keep yourself inspired and motivated to do those things. But I had to go ahead and take those steps. I had to go through this phase of physical rehab to get myself back to a point where I could even walk again. And even though I didn't want to try to do things to strengthen things, and I went through a state of depression, I went through high anxiety, I was dealing with PTSD, and even more so, I was dealing with survivor's remorse. Why am I here? And why isn't she here? These are things that made it harder for me to get up each day and say, okay, I got to do this workout on my core that they want me to do, so maybe I can move my legs whenever the time to walk again is. I lost 35 pounds of weight from not eating. And I had lost so much muscle, and it was painful and frustrating to think that I was strong enough to be able to support myself on crutches, and I fell back down. And I couldn't do it because my leg has gotten so weak, my right leg. And it's like, okay, these things are humbling. These things are setbacks. However, you have to have that focus, that motivation, understand why you're doing the things you need to do to get back to where you want to get to. And that just getting that mindset made it easier for me to say, okay, God, you want me to do this? I got to do it. And then as I do it, it's going to get me just that little step closer to being able to get to where I need to get to. And that was something that drove me as I was going through this process. And after 3.5 months, I was able to take my first steps. Those steps were painful as hell. But it was something that, I had to do if I wanted to get back to the life that I could be able to be a great father to my son, that I could be able to be here and be a vessel for others. And most importantly, just to be able to thrive as if he wanted me to.
First of all, your story has totally moved me. That's such a powerful story, and the fact that you are standing, and the fact that you're using your trauma to go out and help others to move forward and to be resilient is definitely powerful. And you mentioned something that I just want to point out. One, because you are a man of God, you are an African American male, as you talked about therapy. And I think in where we are today, in today's world, I think in our community, a lot of men and women, it's more men sometimes than women, feel that therapy is not for them. And I don't want to take away from your story or anything, but can you just kind of explain and help others to realize therapy is important, especially when you're going through something, even childhood trauma, it requires you to go to therapy to heal. So if you could just kind of touch on that just a little bit.
Gladly, Hope, I will be happy to do so. Prior to going through what I went through, I had never really been through a therapy session. I didn't think that, it was something that was necessary. And, a lot of us have people who would say within our family that, okay, therapy is only for crazy people. So that's the myth that was, sort of in the back of my mind before ever doing this. But in the midst of having to understand that if I was to get back to a point where I could even just be able to, like I said, function in society, I was so messed up from an emotional standpoint that I knew I needed to get some help. And I knew that it wasn't on me to have to figure this out by myself, that therapy was the greatest and the best step that I could take for myself in order to get myself mentally and emotionally back together. One of the things that has come to the forefront, and I see this, is that we are all dealing with so many little things, so many micro traumas that begin to stack up, and they start to have a little cumulative effect on the way that we interact with people, the way that we go about handling any issue that comes up in our day-to-day lives, and the way that we actually deal with the people that we love most. We shouldn't be snapping at people who care about us and love us, but the stress that can come on from dealing with the things that we're trying to internalize and deal with personally ourselves, that can cause us, they can serve as a trigger, and those triggers can cause us to react in ways that we may not normally do so. So when I was going through this process, I had to learn who I was again. Now let me put this out there to you. When you're married with someone for a significant amount of time, or even for just a little bit, you develop relationships, you start to take on part of their personality. They start to take on part of yours. The things that you like to do now become the things that you both like to do. And you start to lose your identity to some extent because you're doing things for the relationship, for the better of all. Now take that and just snatch it away. And then you're having to find yourself, and you don't really know exactly who you are. There's bits and pieces of the person that you were, and there's bits and pieces of the person you were with that person, but having to learn who I really was and what was driving me and what was motivating me and what was going to get me excited every day, especially after dealing with so much setback and pain, what was going to get me excited was something I had to learn. And I had to go through a process to understand who authentically I was. And in the midst of doing that came courtesy of therapy. And being able to understand who I was made it easier for me to figure out how I was going to fit into society and into this world and into what my future looked like, because what I knew in the past was no longer there. The therapy helped me transition from the Tiran Jackson of old to the Tiran Jackson 2.0, the person who I was going to become. So in the midst of all of that, my point is that we deal with stresses. We deal with so much pain, not just from a physical standpoint, but from an emotional standpoint, from a mental perspective. And we have to be able to use the resources available to help us be the best versions of ourselves. And that's what the therapy did for me. It helped me learn how to not only be rebuilt emotionally, to learn who I was, to be able to figure out how to be a better father to my son, to be able to understand perspective on life in the world. God put people and gave people the skill and the ability to be able to help us understand these things. And so that's the way I see therapy, that it was something that helped me be able to understand who I truly was and who I was going to be going forward.
So, Tyron, that's a great segue into, and thank you for all of that, and thank you for being brave enough to tell your story. Because some folks, they have a story, and it is a powerful one, but they're not in a place yet, or may never get to a place that they can share it so it could be somebody else's pain medicine. So
Can I add to that, Stephanie, just real quickly to add on to it? I learned how to be as vulnerable as I could possibly be, and we don't understand, especially us as Black men, don't understand how important it is to be vulnerable and use that vulnerability to be our ladder to, or our stairway to growth. Because when we do that, we're able to emotionally be there, be emotionally available for the people who care for us. We're not trying to fight and hold things in all the time, not necessarily trying to be hard, trying to be able to deal with things on our own. We learn who we truly are. And if we learn who we truly are and how we can interact with others, and how certain things may trigger certain reactions and responses, then we are so much better suited to deal with anything that comes up in our lives, any challenge, any obstacle, anything we need to overcome. And we truly develop that strength and resilience to be able to deal with anything that comes beyond that point.
You just said a word. You just said that. I got to ask this because this, just based on that right there, I wish I could get you and everything that you just said and everything that you believe in front of every man, woman, and child. Because quite frankly, we need to have these conversations, and many people are not having these conversations, and particularly when it comes to the male. Now, I want to ask you this, because I know you have an awesome book, and I just can't wait for my book to show up. But I want to know, do you talk about that very thing in your book? In your book, tell us about your book, and can you show us, please, the book? Please show us the book, and I want you to tell our audience how they can get this book, what this book has in it for them, who should read this book,
problem.
Why did you write a book?
Okay, so I'll try to touch on all those things, Stephanie. Here you can see this is the display of the book, the front cover, Choosing Resilience, and I want you to all know that this goes into my story, because if I hadn't chose to be resilient, and parts of it I shared with you earlier as I was talking, but if I hadn't made that choice to be resilient, then who knows where my life would have ended up. I could have suffered from depression, felt sorry for myself, felt pity, but it was a choice. And once I made that choice, and once God empowered me to do so, then that created the path. And then I knew that there were steps that could be taken in order to get back to not only where I was, but to become better. There is a quote that I like to share with people, and it's not the adversity, but it's our reaction to the adversity that defines our life story. And what I like to say along those lines is my life story was being written in a certain type of way up until a certain point. And then I had to face tremendous, traumatic, tragic, life-altering adversity. And I could have failed. I could have crumbled. I could have been afraid. I could have not have moved forward with trying to get my life back on track. But what has happened is that adversity has actually made me a stronger, smarter, better, more in tune person with myself and with my impact on the world. I understand my purpose. I understand how I need to move in the world, and how, God kept me as a vessel to be able to use this story to impact and inspire people. Let me tell you, if I've come back from this, I don't know what adversity you're facing, but you can surely overcome it, whatever it is that we're facing. So what I look to do is to use my platform. My business is called Reborn Resilient, because in the midst of being burning in the flames on that boat, I was reborn, and I came out as a newer version of myself. And the resiliency that I learned along the way has helped me become the person that I am. So from that, I decided that it would be one of the best ways for me to impact the world was to document this story, and not just document what I shared with you earlier, going through that tragic accident. But in the book, I start to give people techniques, steps on what you can take in your everyday life to be able to become more and more resilient. And what you'll find is that you'll start to get the strength and the focus and the perspective to be able to get past things that might have bothered you, might have challenged you. You might have been afraid. Fear might set in with you in certain areas. And I won't lie, I was afraid with some of the things that came through, but I've learned through decisions that I made in my recovery, some not so good, but most of them worked out in the right way, on what steps and what path to take in order to be more resilient, not only in your personal life, in your relationships, in your physical recovery, in your professional matters. All of these things play a role in their characteristics that we have to some extent within us. Now, everybody doesn't need a life-altering tragedy in order to pull out this resilience. So my book goes into ways that you can do that moving forward. And it's based on the story that I went through here. So I encourage everybody, if you want to purchase the book, it's on pre-order. It's released next week. March the 15th is when it'll be officially released. You can order the book through my website, rebornresilient.com, or you can go to choosingresilience.net and be able to order directly and get a hardback or paperback copy of it. And you can also go to Amazon and order the Kindle version actually today and be able to get it when it's released next week. But choosing resilience, it is something that we all need to make that decision if we want to actually get to a point where we're not feeling bad for ourselves and actually want to strive for success in our lives.
Well, wait a minute now. Hope, let me bring out Hope. I know you are already see you because I was looking at you in the background. So I know you are already on Amazon and everywhere else trying to get that thing. And I saw my husband already put it must read. He got to have it. So I already have a book coming, but my love knows I love to read and I love to be, own right in it. And so he has to have his own copy. Now, I want to go back to Hope. I know you have a question. Let me not monopolize. Okay, so this thing for the people, and you already touched on it, for the folks that are, they've been through some stuff, because I know 2017, I had a major back surgery and I had a couple of setbacks and I became somebody that I didn't even know all the crying that I did and I can't make it. And when a setback came, somebody, I wish I had, but I wish I knew you then. So you could have been like, Stephanie, okay, so I see what you're going through. It probably would, you probably would have had to have resisted saying your low back injury, right? But it was, I needed someone to tell me their story so I can get my eyes off of my story. Because I was going to tell that story because I need everybody to understand, because they couldn't see my injury.
Right.
And so I need you to talk to that person that's somewhere right now, whether you can see it or you can't see it, that feels like, okay, yeah, you overcame, but yes, you can overcome it. I can't, because we're in our head. I need you to talk to them about the lies that they're telling themselves and how you dealt with the lies you were telling yourself.
Sometimes we can be our own worst enemy, and that goes to a whole mindset. And look, there's a group of people called the upgraders who go into mindset and getting your mind right, that I think, all of your audience should follow them as well, because mindset is so key. But when we're talking about trying to get past where we are, overcoming our fears, that's something that we have to be able to understand, that we can't do all that by ourselves, and that there are steps, there are actions, there are things that we can do, certain habits that if we don't have now, we need to start developing, because that better suits us to be able to get past that point where we're afraid. I want to think that, the opposite of being afraid in some ways is being prepared, because the more prepared you are, the less intimidating that's going to look to be able to get over what's bothering you and what's stopping you from doing what you need to do. Now, there is a key level of habits with persistence, with just willingness to push yourself when it's necessary, that you gotta, if you don't have that, you gotta be able to understand that you got to develop some of that to overcome it. But we all have this doubt that we can't get through things, that we can't overcome things. But know that you have to find the right people to support you, and that's key. I didn't talk about that any, but there are going to be plenty of people who might be aware of your situation, that they might be saying negative things and not pushing you in the right direction, but pulling you back where you don't need to be. You need to understand that all advice is not good advice, but get advice from the right people. And then everything that we're facing is relative, but God never puts more on us than we can bear. And with that being the case, the challenge that you face may actually make you better once you come on the other side of it. So know that it may be something in front of you. We all have our challenges. We all have our obstacles. We all have the things that we're facing. But before we go rush and try to do something and always try to fix it, make it better, let's take a step back and understand, what is our plan? What is our strategy? What steps are we going to take in order to get there? That's what some of the help that other people provided for me. That was some of when I was praying and I was actually going through, trying to understand why everything happened, it became clear to me. One thing that was important to me when I was sitting and where I was laying in that bed and had all that time was to start journaling and putting all the thoughts and emotions and the things that I didn't know about what my future looked like. I put it down on paper. And what that did was create clarity. And as it became clearer, then me being able to understand and order my next steps became a little bit easier. and a little bit easier as I was recovering physically, and I was getting myself back emotionally, and I was getting myself as far as focus on life back together. And I say this, in the midst of going through all of these steps and this transformation, God put me back in an amazing way. I was able to find my purpose, be able to figure out what I was going to do professionally in order to not only, provide a means for my son and I, but to be fulfilled, to be able to feel happy and excited each day. Something that I knew that I could touch people with and be able to help make their lives better, which is something that is great and powerful. And as an engineer, I wasn't doing it in that same way. I was able to be put back together emotionally and my heart be able to recover. I was taught how to learn to love myself. And as I was learning to love myself, it made me more capable to learn how to love others again. And I'll tell you this story. It was about a little over a year after the accident. And one of the first times that I actually went somewhere and did something, because I became real reclusive for a while after everything had happened. As I mentioned earlier, my former wife and I, we went to Tennessee State University for undergrad. I had gotten a scholarship created in her honor at Tennessee State. And in the midst of it, a year after it happened, at their homecoming, I went back to speak at the scholarship gala in order to get it dedicated. And as I was going through that, and I was seeing a number of people who knew me and knew her and wanted to give the condolences and who had been supporting me throughout, I was blessed. By that point in time, I healed enough emotionally to be open to the idea of love again. And there was a young lady who came back to that event with a couple of people who went to school with me. And I happened to meet her while I was there during that weekend. And that lady happened to be someone who I developed a relationship with, and she became my wife. And I was able to be remarried and find someone who truly loved me despite all the struggles and all the challenges and all the emotional pain that I had. And I say that to say, because God was able to, as I was honoring and creating a legacy for my former, I was able to be blessed enough to have the person that God saw me to move forward with the rest of my life with in that same place, in that same moment. And with that, I am living a full, happy life where I have love, and we have a blended family that is getting stronger and stronger each day. We have a mantra that we live by. And this is something that came through the therapy as we were going through, developing our relationship, called BOLD, where it stands for Building Our Love Daily. And we're able to use that as a platform to be able to help others who have, maybe have come through some transition in life to either come from divorce or come together and having a blended family, and trying to make sure that we're doing things to create and nurture that love and be able to take it to another level. So that's a great thing. So I say all of these things to say that even though it might have seemed that I went through a severely traumatic situation that could have kept me in a worse state, that it could have kept me down and in a dark place, going through what I've gone through has made me a better man. I've become a man that's been transformed, a man with a purpose, a man with a passion for things that I may not have had passion for before. Someone who knows that there is a certain love to have for others and an empathy that it didn't come out before, but now I have it in surplus. And in doing that, I feel so much more comfortable with where I am and where my future is going, despite what has happened to me. So I've overcome obstacles, I've overcome setbacks, and we all are going to face setbacks and challenges along the way. And I know this started with a whole nother question earlier, Stephanie, but know that if you're in this situation where you're facing adversity, acknowledge it, be aware of it, but also tell yourself that I've got it in me to overcome. And if I don't, I can find the right people, the right help, the right support to help push me when I need to be pushed in that direction.
Ooh, let me tell you something. Tiran, you have blessed not only us, but I can tell you, everyone that is watching, and those of you that are watching right now, we believe on this show to give people their flowers while they're in the space to read it for themselves. So can you go ahead, come on now and put your comments in the chat so that we can see, so Tiran can see what you have to say about what he done brought, this information he done brought to us tonight. And also, for those of you just gonna be watching it on the replay, just go ahead and put replay and put it in there, because see, he has shared it on in his space, so he'll see your comments. Yeah. So we thank you for that. And then I want you also to take everything that you heard today and don't just listen and receive it. I want you to receive it and own the part that you say, he all up on my street. He, as they say, the church, to the pastor say, he on my toes, right? But I want you to say, you know what? Whatever I heard tonight, how can it benefit me? And if you need more information, Tiran, you have not only a book, but you have a program. Yeah. And from the website, which we have here, and it's at the bottom, you go it takes you to his webpage. You can find out about how you can one, reach him, how you can get your book. Go ahead and get your book tonight, everybody. Tonight. Get your book, but also how you can connect and how you can get to your next, how you can get what he got. Here's the deal. He's not asking you, he's not telling you about something he heard about. He's not talking about, as my husband like to say, he's not talking about theory. He talking about what he lived.
This is real life. I'm telling you, this is what I had to deal with. So, I mean, this is me. This is the authentic Tiran Jackson. This is what you're getting. This is, no filter, no. This is it. And I feel that, we all need to be more transparent in ways, but when we get to our authentic self, there's so much out there for us to be able to do for others and do for ourselves. So there's no limits at that point. As far as my platform, Reborn Resilient, you can go to rebornresilient.com. Like Stephanie said, go there. You can purchase the book, but you can also learn more about myself and my platform, where I not only help people who are trying to find their resiliency in the midst of tragedy and trauma, but I also help people who are going through some type of transition. I'm doing coaching on a one-on-one basis and extending that to a membership platform where we can actually learn from each other and the challenges that we're facing, the techniques that we can apply in our lives to help get past those things. Because ultimately, we all want to find our place of happiness and success. And if we can start to do those things to pull ourselves out of that place of being stuck, and I use that word, there are so many people who are stuck in life and don't know how they're going to take that first step forward. I had to take my first step forward after getting, having a hell of a setback. And I want to help others who need to get that first step, to be able to gain perspective, to be able to find their framework or their roadmap on how I'm going to get from where I am, despite what happened to me, where I am, to where I'm intended and meant to go. So if you go to rebornresilient.com, you can learn more about this. You can learn more about my platform. I do keynote speaking for different organizations, companies, and even the one-on-one perspective. So you can see a list of the specific topics that I happen to talk about, that I share my experiences and the lessons that I've learned about. You can reach to me directly there. You can also find me on Facebook, on LinkedIn under Tiran Jackson. On Instagram, you can find me under Reborn Resilient or Tiran Jackson Official. You can also visit my Facebook business page under Reborn Resilient. Any of these ways, shoot me a message, say hi, tell me you got the book. Hey, if you get the book, I want you to tell me what you got from the book. So feel free to reach out to me. I'm a real person. You reach out, I respond back to you. But I want to see if there are ways that we may be able to help others overcome their obstacles and adversities that they're facing so they can maximize their life. And you can get to the point and regain control in areas you may not realize you lost control in. So by all means, you can follow me and find me there. Tiran Jackson, Reborn Resilient. One of the two you'll be able to get me.
Powerful, powerful stuff. Well, this is, and you know, we love it. Whenever we go over, we say that's when we know we had a juicy night. And this has been phenomenal. And again, Tiran, we thank you for your yes. Because we know you could have been like, girl, you know my schedule. I ain't got no time to be fooling with you. But I thank you for saying, absolutely.
Stephanie, you know, I got time for you guys. And look, your platform is called 1 Million Lives Transformed. Correct. I'm hoping to transform lives. So anything I can do to help get that message out to people who need their lives transformed, look, we need to do it. We need to make it happen. So Hope, Stephanie, you guys are great. You know how to find me. So look, I'm honored and I'm grateful to be able to be a part of your platform and be able to hopefully touch somebody tonight that they feel that this story might have impacted them to get up and go do something different. Maybe it's somebody who is dealing with the challenge. Reach out to me, reach out to Stephanie, reach out to Hope, reach people who are able to not only know from experience, but people who have gone through this journey. Look, we all don't have to recreate the wheel. There is something to be able to leverage from experience and from group learning. And that's what I suggest we do. Sometimes we just got to take that first step. Take that first step. Go to rebornresilient.com. Go to 1 Million Lives Transformed. Take action. Do these things. We all want to succeed. We all want to be happy. We all want to have great lives. And this is just a way to be able to put it in front of more people so you can take that step.
Well, Hope sound like he done gave us the benediction, didn't it?
There's nothing left to say.
Well, you know what, you all, this is where so Tiran, thank you. Hope, I guess what, Hope, you want to close this out this evening?
Sure.
All right, Hope's gonna close this out. And listen, you all keep them comments coming. Listen, keep them going. And we thank you. So you know what? Go get your book tonight. Let's show the world. If it's not for you, because you know, sometimes it may be somebody else that's on your mind, that popped in your mind, that needs to hear this story. You can not only go back and share what you learned, but go back and do one better. Get them the book. You be the gift. All right, you all. Next week, same time, same place. Hope, check us on out.
All right, everyone. You all heard it here. Mr. Tiran Jackson. Go out and get the book, Choosing Resilience. That is such a powerful word. Be resilient. Bounce back from whatever it is that's been holding you back and keep moving forward. So, as we like to say, let your light shine, because the light that shines inside of you is the Holy Spirit. If your light is too bright for you, put on your sunglasses. If it is too bright for someone else, ask them to put on theirs. So tune in next week at 6:30. Check us out. You never know what's going to happen, but join us. And we pray that you all receive something tonight that will just help you to make a transition and to transform your life. See you all next week. Bye.